And welcome back to the Pulse. Now, the internal elections of the New Patriotic Party is heating up as all candidates aspiring for the national leadership roles in the governing party have less than 2 months to seek the endorsement of party delegates ahead of a crucial national party conference slated for July this year. The NPP is set to hold regional level elections by the end of this month. Obviously, and even before that process ends, we're seeing the race heating up for the General Secretaryship role. And of course, that contest has some names which you are projecting on your screens now. We've had, for instance, of the governing or incumbent General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, John Boydu. He's put out himself as going into that race. And we know that John Boydu is definitely the incumbent General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. Then there's Justin Konya Frimpong. We've heard about him as well. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the YEA and a lawyer in that contest. But next is one man who we brought his interview to you last week Friday. My colleague Samuel Kojo Brace interacted with Charles Bisiu. He's a former presidential staffer and also a former secretary for the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Small-Scale Mining. So he's also in the race, also a regional executive of the party as we speak. There's Frederick Opariansa, who was earlier on the show before we aired that interview with Charles Bisiu. Opariansa also joined us. We know that he was one time, at least 4-time member of parliament for one of the constituencies in the Eastern region, specifically Suhum constituency, and he says that he's also seeking the mandate of the delegates of the party. And here we are today, facing one man who's also giving his clear indications of contesting. He's currently the Deputy Chief Executive Officer for the Forestry Commission and the former Mayor of Tamale. Musa Superior is my guest right here on The Pulse. And what a nice time to be seeing you, sir.
Good
Welcome
afternoon.
to the program.
Yes, so good in your suit.
Thank you so much. You're looking great as well.
Oh, thank you.
Now, I understand that you were in the Volta region over the weekend, and so I'm presuming that you've interacted with some of the party delegates. And what indications are you picking up from the grounds?
It was great. It was great. Volta region was great. I was there over the weekend. And one of my key responsibilities in the Volta region was to, first of all, speak to our party people and engage them in the project to galvanize our energies for 2024. Secondly, I also announced to them formally my intention to contest for the position of General Secretary of our party. We're going around the country, every aspirant or everybody seeking to gain a position in the NPP in July, you've got to reach out to the delegates. So one of our strategy is to do constituency by constituency. So in the Volta region, we did 11 constituencies out of the 18 just for 2 days. We're going back to the Volta region next week, and I can assure you that the NPP people in the Volta region are up. They are very assertive. They're looking for it for a very judicious contest, a contest that is going to produce the most excellent team, so that we can go into the contest and deliver for the NPP in 2024.
We'll get into all of that, even the 2024 elections, but how would you describe the campaign process for you so far?
Oh, it's been absolutely brilliant. And for me, I'm a grassroots person, somebody who has been a member of this party. In fact, a member before the party was pronounced.
Really?
Yeah, the group that formed the party at the age of 21, I was a member of the Danko Buzia Club in the early 1990s. I mean, the then chairman of the Danko Buzia Club in Tamale, Alhaji Araya Alasan of blessed memory, later became the vice presidential candidate of Professor Dubois in 1992. So we worked through the ranks and file of the party. I've been a tough, serious grassroots communicator of the party since 1992. And then in 1996, I was the founder of the Young Elephants Club. And then moving forward in 2005, I contested for the position of national organizer. So this is not my first contest at the national level. I did, and I contested with the current Director of Operations at the Office of the President and a former Deputy Minister for Presidential Affairs, Alhaji Mukhtar Bamba. That was the 2005 conference in Accra. Then in 2011, I contested for the position to be nominated for NPP parliamentary candidate for Tamale Central. In fact, I did that contest whilst I was away. And then I got 72% of the endorsement of the people of Tamale, the delegates of the Tamale Central Constituency. And then I became the official nominee of the party for the 2012 parliamentary elections.
Right.
I contested with my brother, Honorable Inusaf Hussein,
Right.
who won the seat. And then I think he went on to become a minister for
Land,
Rose,
and
or
also
Lands, one of
Lands,
the
and
ministers.
also
But he was
Lands,
later promoted to Lands and Forestry then.
Yeah.
Of course, moving forward, in 2014, the former General Secretary of their party appointed me to become his special assistant at the party headquarters. I had worked with him for a year until I got my appointment to work with the then presidential candidate of the NPP, Nanado Denko Akufo-Addo, to become his senior campaign aide in the 2016 election. So you can see the consistent flow of my participation in the NPP activity. It hasn't been just some 5 years ago.
You've been there from the inception.
From the scratch, you know.
Have you always looked up for this one day when you'll become General Secretary, or perhaps you're taking on this role because you believe something is just not right?
I've always wanted a firm, reasonable, meaningful participation of myself into the NPP, so that collectively we can always have a stronger, one-fit-size NPP to deliver what we want. So at any particular point in time, I have been a very, very strong participant in the party's progress. And now I think that I should go for this.
So you're saying this is not just about, for instance, John Boydu, who's not delivered well for the party, and so you believe, well, we need to change leadership?
Of course, one of the reasons why I want to go for the position of the General Secretary is the abysmal performance of the current executive, including the office of the current General Secretary.
You believe they haven't done well?
I don't believe they did well. I mean, the record shows that they haven't done well. You have a mandate between 2018 and 2022. That is a mandate. It's a mandate for you to deliver. Winning an election is part of the mandate. So if you delivered an election in 2020 and the election has become an abysmal poor performance compared to the election we had in 2026, it shows that there's a problem somewhere. And these deficiencies, we all have a responsibility as party people to identify these deficiencies in the structure of the party and correct them for 2024. Otherwise, it's going to be a big problem for us.
I'll ask you about the chances of the party going into 2024, but I need to state that we've spoken to almost all of the candidates, including John Boydu himself. I'm sure that you've monitored that. He says, I mean, the likes of yourself and others who are contesting him, you don't necessarily have the experience to carry the party into such a crucial elections in 2024.
That's a very poor propaganda work. You know, I mean, if he's talking about experience, where was the experience when we had done this poor delivery in 2020? Where was the experience when the party people have been complaining all over the country that there haven't been any tangible program to empower them? That's not what we're talking about. Every single person who is contesting this election, if you look at the history, has performed his role, he's paid his dues, he's done some sort of work in the party. Now, what the party is looking for is capacity and competence. And that is what I'm bringing on board, so that we can galvanize the energies of our party people at the basic level and encourage them and push them in a very assertive and purposeful position, so that we can look forward to establishing, you know, a reasonable sense of belief that the 2024 elections is going to be our taking. Look, His Excellency Nanado Denko Akufo-Addo has done so well, so extremely well. In fact, I have always argued, and I will always continue to argue that he's probably the best president this country has ever produced.
Really?
I mean, that is my argument, and we can do this argument another time.
Yeah, but for now, let's focus on the NPP.
Yes.
Right?
So because of his performance as the NPP performance led by Akufo-Addo and his cabinet, it does appear that we are about 50% ahead of the NDC for 2024. But we have to be able to get this party back to work. There are thousands of NPP people who have silently resigned. I have a responsibility to re-recruit them and encourage them and tell them that, look, we are not going to have the status quo again. We're going to dismantle it, re-prepare their party, and make sure that every foot soldier of their party, every constituency officer, every polling station officer, every electoral area coordinator, we engage with them and put them into a situation where they think that there's a plan they're looking
But I want to get your points clearly. Are you suggesting that, for instance, what happened during the 2020 elections had nothing to do with what some describe as the poor performance of the NPP in government. And you seem to be laying all of the blame at the doorstep of one man,
No, because that
who perhaps may not necessarily have the opportunity in terms of reins of government. You were a government appointee, you are still a government appointee now. Some say it's because of your inactions as appointees, and that's why the people of Ghana cast a verdict on you in such a manner. So this is not necessarily a party matter.
That assessment is not an accurate assessment, because it is not true that we perform so badly. I mean, Akufo-Addo is leading a government and started a government at the time that the global pandemic came. In fact, if it was NDC or any other political party or any other person in that situation, I'm sure that this country would have collapsed. And you know what is going on. The whole world, the entire international community have given him plus. They say he's done so well, he's performed well. So our performance, if you look at our manifesto in 2016, everything we have said in our manifesto, we have either delivered them or nearing.
And this was an MPP manifesto. So if you're giving credit, give credit to John Boydo as well. He's done well, isn't it?
Of course, he will be giving credit where it is due. But what I'm saying is that you cannot have a party which had 169 seats in Parliament in 2006. And of course, the preparation for the 169 seat, the kind of work that was done by the former General Secretary. Not John Boydo. Right. And he got the party well prepared, organized it, prepared it well for the 2016.
Okay, so now I get your argument. So you are saying, let's decouple what it is that has happened to the party reorganization structures from what John Boydo has contributed to the party. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, his contribution is, nobody can, argue that he hasn't contributed. He's been a young man, followed this party through. But this time, we are in a very, very difficult stage. We need somebody who can mobilize and provide excitement.
Okay, so let's get into it. If the NPP were to be standing right in front of you, what would you fix about the NPP? What would you correct about the NPP?
So many things. But one is to try and make sure that this party is now managed from bottom to top. We've been managing the party for far too long from Accra, concentrating Accra. And if you go to the countryside, you realize that the party is completely disregarded. Our offices are broken down. Our officers do not have the logistics to work. All the special organs of the party, the youth wing, the women's wing, the Nasara wing, they are all operating at zero strength. You can commission a research. I know you're a very credible group here. You can commission a research. People are not working because they don't have the resources to work. And we're saying that it is the responsibility of the national executive of the party to make sure that the party is active. As we speak, the spirit of the party is gone and requires tenacity to be able to get it back. And
some political watchers would tell you, well, that's the tradition of the NPP. You were there since the inception. Would you say, would you believe with that? Because the point is, well, this is an elitist party. I'm sure that you've heard that argument most of the time. So if it's been run from Accra, what necessarily is the big deal? That may be a criticism.
That has been a propaganda. I mean, and I don't accept that. It has been a propaganda. This party, the kinds of people, who formed this party, were very local people across board. They were very local people, very, very local people. I'm talking, if you come to Tamale, for example, you're talking of people like Ajia Maria Masampaga, Alaji Saidi. They were all uneducated. In fact, the large membership of the Northern People's Party and the National Liberation Movement, and of course the Togoland Congress and the Anlo Youth Organization, large majority of their membership were uneducated. And that is the beginning of the UP tradition. So it was a propaganda, just to undermine us and to tell the Ghanaian people that, oh, these are educated people, they cannot think with you, they think you are stupid. That is what the NDC. So this whole elitism started from an NDC propaganda. That is not true. What we're saying is that this time the party has to change, and we have to now running the party from bottom to top. And to do that means you will have to have a proper and effective activity plan. And the activity plan will indicate where a national officer A will be in a particular month, where a national officer B would be in a particular month. And as General Secretary, it's important that we introduce the Dambuchi Lord Comey model.
Just break that down.
Yeah, the Dambuchi Lord Comey model was a super model. It was all over the country. They didn't spend days in Accra holding meetings. Of course, they would normally come and do these things, but they were always in the countryside talking to their party people and identifying the problems of their party people. Every activity plan produces an action plan or a needs assessment. So if you are out there visiting the party people on a formal working tour, you will see them tell you the problems. You're going to see the problems by yourself, and by the end of your tour, you have identified.
But at least we're receiving some reports already. You've seen the reorganization process start already. The polling station level elections were held. That of the constituency levels were done. And then we're hearing of the regional one, which is set to happen this weekend.
This weekend, yeah.
It's been characterized by violence and some attacks on even the party officers. You've seen such reports.
Yeah, because
as well.
the party was completely unprepared for it, and especially at the polling station level. But I don't want to talk about it because the party has set up a committee to investigate. But the beginning of the whole process was absolutely a disaster, and the blame must go directly on the head of the national executive for handling an unprepared procedure for the party to begin our elections. But at the electoral area, we had a few problems in the constituency, a few problems. We expect that at the national, there shouldn't be problems, so that we can all get together and focus, come to Accra in July, and choose our leadership.
And the regional ones, that's what's next. Yeah. We're obviously expecting that throughout the weekend that will be happening. What's your message to delegates?
In fact, I've issued a statement, and in the statement I have told delegates to elect people who believe in the party first agenda mantra. To believe in the party means you can believe that the party has a program to be able to deliver so that our government will continue. I mean, to serve a party means you believe in their party. So we have to be able to believe in their party and choose dedicated, committed, selfless people to lead their party. Because the only way you can be able to attract people and recruit people and even go and campaign people to join your party is when you have social authority in the community. We're looking for people who are committed, who can help empower our people. The moment you empower our people economically or financially, they gain social authority. And when they gain social authority, they're able to use it to mobilize and organize people in their communities to join their party for the bigger onslaught in 2024.
So that's what you're on the lookout for.
That is exactly the bid of the Musa Superior People's Campaign.
You want it to be holistic, I presume. You want it to run from bottom up all the way to the top.
That should be the case. And any institution, in fact, in Joy FM here, multimedia, I mean, the best way you can deliver is to make sure that your security officers, casual workers, cleaners, and all these people, you look after them. That approach is the best approach. In fact, it has been the best approach for even big companies around the world. And that is what we are going to introduce so that we can pay greater attention to our polling station officers. There are over 180,000. And there are officers all over the country manning and working at our polling stations and delivering and attending funerals, social events, weddings, and looking after our party there. So it is critical that the national party should be able to put a plan in place to look after them.
At least we know that time is running out. You have a few days to sell your message to the delegates as well. What exactly are you selling to them?
I'm telling them that we need somebody who has the capacity not only to address the challenges in the party and make sure that the party is stronger and fit for 2024, but you also need people who can stand whoever the NDC is going to choose as a general secretary. So the person must be strong, the person must be courageous, he must be assertive, he must be strategically minded, he must also be multitasking. That is the kind of person we need, because the bigger battle, this intra-party contest, it's going to go quietly, and we are hoping and praying that we have a very peaceful
but some would say it's not going anytime soon, particularly as we know that there's at least a 6 months gap between your election as national executives and that of the presidential candidates. It's one of the big spots of the party, something that if you don't manage well, you risk losing the next election. So, I mean, that's assuming without admitting that Ghanaians will give you a second chance. But looking at what's happening now, some political watchers have said there's a sharp divide creeping into the party now that we know of some names, including the Vice President, Alan Termating. You've heard some of these names as well. How do you feel the party should be handling such internal wrangling that is coming up already?
It's quite normal. In fact, we have never had a heated presidential argument or presidential run than the one we had in 1992 in Sunyani, 1998 in Sunyani. our party came out stronger. It has always been like that. We are the first timers. We believe in democracy. In fact, the values, the likes of B.J. Rochas, Stephen Kreku, and the rest, they left some values for us. Election, democracy, competition, transparency, diversity, and liberty. And these values are the values that underpin the UP tradition and the NPP in particular. So I can tell you, whatever you are hearing is normal thing. It's a democratic process. People have the right.
You feel it won't degenerate? It won't break the ranks of the NPP?
No. It's never happened. We've had primaries to choose for our presidential candidate since 1992. And any time the primaries are done and the candidate is choosing, we all come behind, push the candidate to win.
Are you then making the argument that, for instance, if the NPP were to be presented to the people of Ghana as of today, regardless of the political, the party candidate you may be fielding, you win the 2024 elections?
The issue is that we are ahead of the NDC because of the performance.
What's supporting that, particularly when we know there are reports out there? I'm sure you've heard of the EIU report. The EIU, for instance, is predicting that you may not win the 2024 elections.
Told you. That is the prediction of EIU, but I'm telling you from the facts, my assessment is that we are ahead of the NDC in this election, the 2024 election, and in this campaign. The kinds of things we can tell Ghanaians, they will have no message for Ghanaians. So what we're saying is that this 50% mark for the NPP, then the party must work hard so that we can come in strongly and then get our presidential whoever is going to be chosen.
What's giving you that upper hand over the National Democratic Congress?
I just told you our performance. The performance of this government has been absolutely brilliant. There's anybody who wants to talk the other way around is doing propaganda. That's a fact.
The economy is not doing well today. Journalists are being attacked.
Every economy in the world.
You're being downgraded.
Every economy in the world.
That's
today,
the reality that's facing
every
today.
economy in the world is not doing. In fact, some economies are doing so terrible than Ghana's economy. Economies you think might have been doing well, they're struggling. The U.S. economy is struggling. Mortgages are down. There's homelessness has increased. In fact, the U.S. government has been running to Congress for money to shore up the economy. In the U.K., similar things are happening. In Canada, everywhere in the world. Because
Mr. Superior, that's why I'm happy you were one-time campaign aide to then candidate Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. He's now president. He criticized John Evans Mills, and I know that you recall clearly. He says you were elected to fix the problem. That's what he told the president.
At the time, John Evans felt miserable to fix the problem. There was no global pandemic. And this is what you have to clearly identify. It's very, very important that this is communicated clearly. Everywhere in the world, according to the World Bank and the IMF, the economy is really under pressure. And it's not going to end anytime soon. So this reality must be communicated clearly to the Ghanaian people. We are having these problems. In fact, between 2017 and 2020, you saw that the whole country, everybody was happy, including you, my brother.
Oh, well, you're not certain about that, are you?
So you see that when, I think COVID started in 2019, and by 2020 it was declared a global pandemic. And that was the time the second term of Akufo-Addo's government came in. And throughout the Akufo-Addo's government, he was faced with COVID. And he's got to try and find
the World Bank is challenging those claims. We've heard from the country director indicate that the signs were there. Those are his words. The signs were there even before the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, the science has always been there. I mean, if you look...
So that clearly tells you it's not necessarily the pandemic as you're always saying.
If you read the full version of the report carefully, the analysis the World Bank has done, if you look at the countries involved, every country had a problem with some bit of the economy, including Ghana. So that small negative analysis of Ghana's economy was not akin to Ghana alone. It was several other countries. And when COVID came, the devastation started. And I tell you, it's just the indefatigability of this president and the resilience of our cabinet and the Ghanaian people. Today we are where we are today. I don't want to mention names of other African countries here. That would be terrible. But I'm telling you, today, their economy is completely zero.
Anyway, we need to go. Your delegates are watching you. You have an opportunity. Just your final words to them as we wrap up on this conversation.
We need to get our party revived. If we want to get our party revived, we've got to repair the party. And the only way we can repair the party is to select people who can think outside the box, who are smart, who are assertive, and who can work very, very closely with our party people on the ground so that we can build the party strongly from bottom to top. And when we do that, it means that we are able to provide what I describe as social power for our party people. And then the organization will continue for 2024 elections. And then we're going to deliver it, and then the NPP government will continue to do the great things for our country.
And that's Musa Superior, the General Secretary hopeful, one of them, of the New Patriotic Party. But